what's going on, everybody? Steve with Rake and Profit over at rakeandprofit.com coming back to you with another video. And we're here with Warner with the Fields of Profit YouTube channel. Right now, he's doing a little over $120,000 a month with his Amazon online arbitrage business. His profit margins are around 15%. And we've been getting a lot of questions behind the scenes. People have been hitting him up, hipping me up. How in the world does he source? And can you show us how to source our first OA product online? We got Warner back and we're going to literally show you. We're going to take you into our screen and show you exactly how to do this. Any other notes on that?
Yeah, so I'll just say as a preface, you're going to want two tools for this method, Keepa and SellerAmp. Both of those will cost you about $20 a month. No need to overcomplicate it or do anything fancy. This is called reverse sourcing, but we'll just go ahead and jump into it. We'll go and jump into the computer over here and I'll show you exactly what we do to find great items to sell.
Let's go.
So I'm jumping in with this particular product right here, just as an example of kind of what you're looking for. This was a product that my virtual assistant team, we identified this lead overnight last night. It's this particular brand right here. It's the CeraVe bar soap. Down here on the Keepa, we can see that it's consistently selling for like $20 at least. Recently it was selling for like $33. Not sure who's paying it, but doesn't matter. The data is telling us that it is selling for that price. So we're going to jump over here to Target, show you where I got it from. So we're buying it for $6. You can see it's in stock for shipping, all that good stuff. And then if we plug that into SellerAmp, it's going to show us we're going to make about $6. If you want to include, like, let's say you pay a lot of sales tax, it'd be like $6.60. So you're making like 100% ROI on this item. This is an exceptionally good item. I would imagine this was based on some kind of shortage or something going on. Maybe the price will come down, maybe it won't. But this is just an example because this particular product doesn't really matter for our purposes. Basically, we just need a starting point to find other sellers who are doing the same thing as us, buying items from Target, flipping it on Amazon. And when we go down here on SellerAmp, we can look at all the other guys who are selling it. So I'll flip on this here. So we just have Prime offers. I prefer to sell FBA. We ship it all off in a box and Amazon takes care of it all for us in terms of order fulfillment, all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be our competition. We want to look at, see what these other OA sellers are selling. So this guy right here has 21 feedback. This guy's got 8. This guy's got none. So there's a lot of newer sellers on this item, which also helps me reasonably infer that this is probably a bunch of arbitrage sellers. If it was a bunch of big wholesale guys, they'd probably have a lot more feedback. But this tells me that this guy right here is probably doing arbitrage. That's what we want to do. So we can jump into his storefront and see exactly what this guy's selling. And having this view on SellerAmp here gives me a ton of data all in one place. It's a little bit faster than how we used to have to do it back in the day. So you can see a lot of information, like the offers. Right away, we can see that Amazon's on this one, so we can keep on scrolling past. Right here, we've got the Keepa chart right here. This one right here tells me that, oh, it was selling for, $5 in the past. All of a sudden, it's selling for $8. Probably not consistently going to stay at $8, so I can just keep on moving. And so I can make a lot of decisions like that as I'm scrolling through these storefront, kind of reasonably inferring, oh, can I get this 3-pack of toothpaste for $4? Probably not. I'm going to keep moving on. Can I buy this for $-1? Obviously not. We're going to keep moving on. So it is going to be time consuming. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it took way too long to find a lead. It's going to take time. You're learning a new skill. Like it's your very first time trying something like this. So your first lead probably going to take forever. Feel like you're never making any progress. But there's a couple ways to kind of stack information. So for example, when we see an item like this one kind of sticks out to me a little bit more. I see this orange line over here is the price. I see it's pretty flat, so it's a little more consistent, meaning we're not going to have price tanking, all that kind of stuff that might make us lose our profits. So when I see an item like this that's a little bit interesting, I'll go ahead and click on the Google button, and then this just grabs the title, puts it in Google for me, and then it's going to see if I can find it cheap enough somewhere else. So when I do that, I'm basically looking. So Bed Bath & Beyond might have that for $7. I'm interested in this though. It's like a weird multi-pack of 12, although this might be like travel size. Yeah, it looks like it's travel size. So really, we're just looking at an item, seeing if we can buy it for this price. In this case, it looks like those single tubes are going for like $7. So this might be a more wholesale type item. This guy probably isn't really making that much profit on it. So a couple things to keep in mind as we're scrolling through here is what kind of coupons are available on items like this, and what sites are these items best sourced from? Those are two questions that you will learn over time. That's kind of the biggest learning curve to this business model. So for example, I look at this item right here, and I know that every now and then Vitacost is going to do a 20% off sale on this type of stuff. Walgreens will do a buy one, get one on this kind of beauty products. So those are the kind of nuggets you need to be stacking on top of this reverse sourcing. But you can absolutely find stuff without that. But that's how you get really, really proficient at reverse sourcing. So I know, Steve, you're kind of trying to get into this as well. What kind of questions are going through your head? Because I know the other guys at home are probably a little bit more lost than you.
Yeah, well, first off, I love how SellerAmp breaks down, like you could put in the buy cost and the profit. And if you go back to the other page, it actually will share with you how many times the item is selling per month. If you scroll over to the top, this is something we've actually been using with my team right now for my eBay to Amazon flips. That's really big. So I'm actually curious, like, how do you know how deep you would go? Because I saw that listing and a lot of people didn't have a ton of quantity. I think one all the way down had like 30, but you know, this thing's selling like hotcakes.
Yeah, it's doing pretty decent, right? It's selling like 151 times a month. Again, we can see like the new offer count over here seems to have declined. A pretty good indicator that this was in some kind of shortage. Looks like some new sellers are coming back. So it's definitely something to think about in terms of how much competition am I going to have compared to the amount of sales. But the kind of the rough, easy math equation you can do is 151 sales per month on this item. And then we need to figure out how many sellers are going to be sharing sales with. So we've got this guy who's got 2 in stock. He's a brand new seller. So I wouldn't really consider him competitive. He's probably just going to sell out pretty soon. But we can go ahead and lump him in there just to be extra conservative, right? We want to make sure we're not making assumptions that are going to lose us money later on. I'd rather make assumptions that make me a little less money, but make me safer. So this guy, I'll consider him a competitor. This guy right here, they can be a competitor. This guy. You can also hide stock. So if you see 1, it doesn't always necessarily mean 1 in stock. So that's another thing to think about. So I look at this and I see probably 3 competitors. This guy's at $30. This guy's at $32. And these guys are all down where we would be priced. We can buy it for $6, make really good money selling it for $20. So we would be the 4th competitive seller on this listing, the 4th FBA seller. So basically doing some simple math here, we'd sell 151 divided by 4, somewhere around like 35 to 40, somewhere in there is what that kind of runs out to. And then this is another really big nugget. Pretty much no one's taking advantage of this information right here on Keepa. If you go to data and then you go to the offers tab, you can filter by who's selling certain amounts. So we can see exactly how fast this particular seller has been selling. We can see the prices that he's been at.
Wow.
So a ton of data here. This is a big nugget for you guys over here on the Rake and Profit channel. But we can see the exact dates. So like, for example, I can see July 21st at noon, he had a 19 in stock and his price was like $22. So if I'm looking at this, I'm like, all right, somebody bought, they sold 20 units of this for $22 over the course of like 3 days. So that tells me, oh, if I price for $22, prices stay the same. Customers are still going to be there and they're going to want to pay that price for it. So that's another way to like really very specifically be able to tell how much items are selling for and how often they're selling. Getting way more granular with it there. A lot of fun details there, right?
Dude, that's like cheating right there. So you can actually see like how their inventory is changing and kind of estimate like what you should price it at and how many they've been selling.
It's very, very useful data.
Wow, that is super interesting. So now that because really once you find one good lead, that's legit, and you could go storefront stalk them with SellerAmp, find that person, find the other sellers, go through their store, you find a bunch of stuff. I mean, then you're really off to the races trying to source that item. And the way that you're going to source it, once you figure out, okay, I know I'm confident I could sell it for $20, right? By using Keepa. Then you really have to be able to source it. So I know you mentioned like you can hit the Google button and source it through Google. Is that like the majority of the time? Like the majority of the time you're sourcing through Google and like you're finding sites that have it that way?
Yeah, so that's a way that I would say my virtual assistant team uses a ton. It's fairly manual, but very lucrative. We also use a little bit of tactical arbitrage. I would say when I'm doing my own personal sourcing, my virtual assistant team finds most of it for me. But I use SellerAmp in a little bit of a different way. I'll go ahead and show that off real quickly as well.
Please.
So I'd say when I'm doing my own sourcing these days, I do a little bit more of a manual approach, still using a feature that SellerAmp has though. So for example, I would go into a site site like this, we're looking at a sales section, and being that I've sold on Amazon for a while, you'll kind of just develop a feel for what items will do well and which items won't. So for example, this right here, it's got kind of like funky colors. It's kind of purple and coral. No one's really buying that stuff on Amazon. That's more of like a, you know, like a StockX kind of buyer. People who are shopping on Amazon are buying the boring stuff, like all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking through sales sections. I just pulled up Adidas as an example. And if something sticks out to me, so let's say I think I can sell these on Amazon for like $44. Typically you're looking to sell it for about double what you can pay for it. What I would do is I'd pull up SellerAmp over here. And when I press the button, it's going to automatically search that name for me on Amazon. And now I can see the Amazon listing without having to do any copy paste.
Oh, wow.
So I can see that these little aqua slides, the Amazon's on these and they're selling for $20. So it saves me the time of copy pasting all the product titles and all that kind of stuff. And just with one click, I can pretty easily see this is not something I'm interested in selling. Amazon's on it. And it helps me rip through these sections, just kind of going off gut instinct at this point. Similar items I've sold in the past. If you're a brand new seller, this will be insanely lucrative if you go through sales sections. If you click every single item, it'll take a while, but I can pretty much guarantee you're going to be a lot better at Amazon after you do it, and you're going to have a pretty good amount of products that you found to resell. So, you know, going through like something like this, a little black and white bag, it's a fanny pack, so it probably doesn't do quite that well on Amazon, but we can see just out of curiosity. So this one's selling for that's actually a different fanny pack. So maybe this one isn't on Amazon, but that's pretty much what I'm doing. A lot of times when I'm manually sourcing, going through, seeing if SellerAmp can find that product for me automatically, comparing those prices, saves me a ton of time. And I can use kind of my competitive advantage is that I know what sells well on Amazon, what doesn't. So if you're a little bit more experienced, that method is also manual, but it's really, really efficient once you know what you're looking for.
All right. So that was really, really fun, man. That was really cool going into the screen and seeing how you do that. Now, if you're open to it, I'd like to ask you a couple more questions because I'm actually really curious, like, how do you find the coupons and stuff? And what percentage of the items when you find them using SellerAmp, checking with Keepa, storefront stocking and all that, like what percentage of the items are actually profitable, Warner, like right off the bat, like that first item that you showed us versus like you're having to like find a deal or a coupon or a sale?
Yeah. So first off, finding coupons, number one is just getting on email lists of those different companies. So for example, you know, you get on the Walgreens email list. If you get on the Walgreens email list, you get an email saying, hey, we've got a buy one, get one sale going on, all that good stuff. Also, you'll just click around, every Monday, twice a week, however often you want to do it. Check a bunch of different websites that you've bought from the past, check their banners, that kind of thing. They'll be offering different promotions. And then you can also look at like a Rakuten. You can see where there's heavy cash back. Rakuten will also show you different coupons and sales that are going on different websites. So that's a great place to kind of know where to start looking.
Now, this is probably kind of a crazy question, but again, excuse my ignorance because I'm really new to this side of the world. How could people, like, how is this profitable? Like, couldn't everybody just do this? What's the special ingredient that makes this work? I know it's corny, but.
Yeah. So that kind of ties into the second half of your other question as well. So it takes a lot of work. Like you're going to look at a lot of items before you find the ones that are worth it, especially at the start. Like you might spend a week, you might spend a month sourcing. You don't find pretty much anything. You're going to learn a lot more as you do that. And then some things are going to start clicking. And really what you're going to want to figure out is a certain way to stack a coupon with a loyalty, with a cash back, really figuring out a system that you can repeat over and over again. That'll help your Amazon business scale big time. But it's going to be a grind when you first start. Like I'm never going to be the guy to tell you that it's passive. But if you push through that initial learning curve, it's not really a learning curve. It's like a learning plateau. And then it just, you got it. But get through that initial wave and you'll be able to kind of piece together, like I was talking about, like as we're looking through those storefronts, I can know certain items, certain categories where I might be able to potentially buy that for cheap enough. Whereas a brand new seller, they're just flying blind. So you're going to develop that knowledge over time. But definitely just be willing to put in that work when you're first starting.
Yeah. And if it makes any of you guys feel better, I know you and I are we're in the same world of OA, but I'm like eBay to Amazon and you're doing what we taught. The thing is, like, it's a pain in the butt to learn how to do any of this stuff in the beginning, even thrifting books. But the cool thing about this, the difference between like OA and thrifting books is like thrifting books is so hard to outsource without having like a warehouse and like all like putting a physical sourcing team together. Whereas my business is like 90% fully automated now. The only thing I do is ship. And you were telling me behind the scenes that you went from what, 3 to, hopefully I'm allowed to say you got 10 virtual assistants now.
Yeah. So my personal team just went to 10. It's kind of an experiment. You don't know until you try it, right? So it's kind of a big risky bet, but basically kind of the idea is I want to work even less, and the hours that I do work should be very high level tasks. So in my business right now, someone finds the products for me. My manager looks at those products, says, here's what we want, here's what we don't want, kind of trains those VAs to help them find better stuff. And pretty much all I do is say, we want 12 of this, 60 of this, 100 of this, and then I'll pass that off to my buyer. Buyer buys it, ships it off to the prep center. So really, I'm just trying to pull myself out as that final puzzle piece there. And then beyond that, it's just a matter of plugging in more and more money. That's kind of where I'd love to be at, just at a managerial business ownership role, right? That's kind of where we're all trying to get. But that's another thing that I love about doing the business model that I do with the thrift model, all that kind of stuff. You got to be there. It's great. You got to trade your time a little bit, but with OA, you can really do it all remote if you build really nice systems.
Yeah. So is one of your goals, like over the next 1 to 2 years, or maybe 6 to 12 months, whatever, like get to the point where you have your manager able to really understand the landscape of all the deals, the coupons, the sales going on, and like he or she really understands like the quantities, the purchase and everything like that, to really just have yourself like kind of top level?
Yeah. So that's kind of my biggest like high level task right now, is getting him to understand like how much we're buying. But once I figure out that puzzle piece, it'll kind of be off to the races, like, figuring out certain things as we go. But I'd much rather just like address problems and think of where we're going next than, find a product, ship it off, do all that kind of stuff.
Hey, last question for you. And this is just my own curiosity, because I have a boatload of virtual assistants with my business and YouTube and different businesses as well. And I'm curious, how do you like when an issue comes up, which I'd like to remind everybody, when you're working with anybody, there's going to be a million issues. It's either going to succeed if you address them, or your business is going to fail because you ignore them and hope they fix it on their own. But when a mistake comes up, how do you communicate with them? Do you send like a message on Trello, Facebook? Like me, I'm a nut job with like Loom videos. I'll just shoot a Loom video and send it to them. How do you like communicate with your team?
Yeah. So in terms of like training, it's all on like Google Docs, YouTube video, Loom videos. Like I'm the same way. It's just a collection of a bunch of stuff that I think they're going to need to kind of piece together. And then as we have to go through and troubleshoot, so kind of our mechanism for making sure their leads are good, we'll mark any of their leads that are approved and we send to the buy sheet. Those will get marked green. If they don't get marked green, they'll get marked purple. I just don't like the psychology of red. We'll give them an explanation of why it was purple, and then they can learn from those. Like, here's why it was bad, here's why I can learn from it. And over time, we've seen pretty good improvement with that. And if we see the same issues, we'll jump on some meetings. That's another thing I'd love to kind of have somebody on the team. Maybe it's my manager, maybe it's a new person who kind of steps up, and they're like, they source products, but they also do some training, kind of a higher level, kind of mid-level manager, I guess. It's kind of funny now that I'm an entrepreneur going in and creating corporate structure and all that kind of stuff, like, being what you swore to destroy. But I guess that's why we own the businesses, right?
You are the problem, Fields of Profit. No. Well, cool, man. Appreciate you coming on and everything. Are there any, can you share how people can learn more about you and follow you on social media? Because, man, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure others want to learn from you as well.
Yeah, for sure. So Fields of Profit on all platforms, tons of YouTube videos, all that good stuff. If you want to kind of reach out directly, we have a Discord community. There's a whole bunch of people in there. You can get plugged into that community, shoot me a message over there. Always happy to help you guys out.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash that like button, go give them a follow, and much love.
Peace.